pasuk reads in Parshat Metzorah, "V'ish ki titzeh mimeno shikvat zara v'rachat b'mayim et kol besaro v'tamid ad haaretz." The mitzvah of washing oneself in water, the waters of the mikveh, applies not only to a man, but also to a woman, and to a zav and to a zavah. This is learned out in the Torah. So one cannot go into a bathtub and expect that will remove tum'ah, whether it's a tum'ah of shikvat zera, or whether it's a tum'ah of a midah. The mitzvah is to do it in the mikveh, rainwater, but it can also be done under certain conditions in the ocean and the lake. Spring for Zav and Zavah, for example. We're more concerned with how a woman prepares herself to that very important day, the day that she goes to the mikveh. There's quite a few details, a lot of preparation. Immersing yourself in the mikveh is a lot easier than the preparation that happens before that. So before we begin with this stage in Taharat HaMishpacha, the stage of Tevilah in the mikveh, just want to briefly cover some halachot that we've already discussed, and that is the Hefsek Tahara. As you know, the most important part of this process we call Tahara, that begins when Uveset terminates when she goes into the mikveh, is a stage called Hefsek Tahara, which happens after that she has stopped seeing blood, which is on the average after 4 or 5 days. After which, if she checks herself, she can begin to count the 7 clean days, the Shiva Nikveh. This is a very important stage. If it's not done properly, she cannot go to the mikveh. She has had to have known that at some point the blood stopped, but she has had to have counted or observed 7 days that were clean without any major, and I say major stains would be some smaller stains as serious. So if she has 7 straight clean days without any major stains that are tameh, she will be able at the end of those 7 clean days, as long as it checks herself, the very minimum, the very least we said from the very first day and the last day, she will be able to go to the, she has not done these things properly, now go to the, so this is an important stage of Hefsek Tahara. Shiva Nikveh. Hefsek Tahara is the borderline, the transition between the last day when she's blood and before she can begin to count her 7 days. She has to have ascertained that there's no more blood, and she does that on the 5th day usually, in the morning and towards the eve before Shekiah, to determine that there's no blood. So right before Shekiah, she has the custom, which many would do, moch tachuk, to insert something that is there for a little while, for 45 minutes or an hour. That helps to determine if there was any blood. That's called the moch tachuk. But that's not an obligation to check herself, and the way the checking is done is by washing herself well, so there's no leftovers. She may think that there's still some blood there, but it could only be leftovers from the day before. So there's a need to check, to clean oneself, and right before the Shekiah, and that's very important, the timing, right before the sun sets on that day, she checks herself again. There's no blood. If there's no blood, she can begin that night to count her Shiva Nikveh. So we've discussed this in the past, how this is done, how it's done properly. The only thing I want to add now is not only this important, and we always need to emphasize it's very important that it's done properly, but what happens if Erev Shabbat? Or what happens on Shabbat? If the woman is going to go to the mikveh Moed Shabbat, or she's going to go to the mikveh Friday night. These scenarios, Friday night or Motzei Shabbat, are important not only in Hefsek Tahara, but also, as you will see, the woman needs to go to the mikveh, not the Hefsek Tahara, but to the actual mikveh on those nights. Not a problem. She can. But the question is, how does she prepare her? As you know, these things, many of these things cannot be done properly on Shabbat. You're not allowed to transgress on Shabbat, even though it's related to the mikveh. You have to have preparation before. So the first point to keep in mind is that this Hefsek Tahara needs to be done while it's still day, even though we do it as close as possible. We don't want to do it too early because who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of hours. So we want to do it as close as possible to the evening, but we also want to do it before Hadlakah. And the reason for that is because once a woman lights candles, in theory, it's already Shabbat. It's already nighttime. Even though it's still daylight. So for us, for her, technically, it's already Shabbat. If somehow she didn't manage that time, it could happen, forgot, it's still daylight time, and she still has it. She can do it, she can do her Tahara, and whatever is involved, right after the Hadlakah. As long as not too much time has elapsed. Even though it's already Shabbat. For her, technically, it's already Shabbat. She lit the candle, and it's already nighttime. And what happens if it's already nighttime? If she ordinarily, on a regular weekday, she would not be able to count that night as her first night Shiva Nikveh. So you see how important it is to do it before sunset. And you need to give yourself time too. Half an hour to check yourself thoroughly, to see yourself. But since it's already Shabbat, since it's already after Hadlakah, you would not be able, of course, to do everything you would have done on a regular weekday. Anything that involves in Melacha, the Shabbat, you have to be careful with. But in principle, you can do it b'diavad, even though it's after the. Now what happens if it's on Shabbat itself? She's going to be going to the Motzei Shabbat. Everybody know? As you will see, quite a bit of the preparation can be done, certain preparation for Shabbat. The problem is with Hefsek Tahara is that you want to check yourself at the very end. I was told to pass the Shiva Nekiyim, because even though she thinks the blood stopped on Friday, it may come back on Shabbat. So therefore she's allowed to use water that was warmed up before Shabbat. She wants to herself. As long as the water was warm before Shabbat, clean herself in the area washing herself is Shabbat. Because you're not allowed to wash your whole body with hot water, not even on Yom Tov. But if it's just that particular area, one specific area, with water that was warmed up before Shabbat, if you could do that, you could do so. Again, because you can't wait till Motzei Shabbat, you're going to lose a day. If you wait till the night time, you want to still do it in the day. So there are certain things already, you have everything prepared before Shabbat, material, the cut out, cloth, whatever you want to call it. You're not having to prepare it and cut it on Shabbat. If you have everything prepared before Shabbat, you can do it on Shabbat, as long as you're careful with melachot, that you don't do Shabbat. So there's no problem, because that is the time that you're supposed to do it. Obviously, if you do certain things before Shabbat, that would be optimal. But certainly, if you want to wait till close to the Eid of Shabbat, right before you count the 7th. Another quick point, those who wear or who put on the moch dachuk, you have to be careful not to go out with on Shabbat because you're carrying. According to some opinion, because the moch is only there to check, it has no other purpose. One is not allowed to carry it. However, the regular pad, the ones the women use to stop the bleeding, that is permissible to wear in Shabbat as long as it clings well to the body and not just fall off. So the regular pads that they sell in the supermarkets, I don't know, I'm not familiar with all of them, but what I'm told, they are held very well, they don't just fall off. And those are permitted to wear on Shabbat, to go out, even though there's no eruv, to wear them on Shabbat because it prevents the clothing from getting dirty. So that is a form of, you can call that a piece of clothing in a sense. And that is permissible. But the moch itself, if it's just put there, just to check if there is any blood, that should not be carried outside. That should not be worn. You're going to go outside in the street. Now, make myself clear on that? I'm going to get to all of that. So right now we've only discussed some of the points of the Hefsek Tahara, the Shiva Nekiyim. Now we will begin with the whole process of Ilah, and how that is done. I just wanted to review the Hefsek Tahara because that is going to be done properly, and it can be done on Shabbat too, as long as we're careful not to be Mechalel Shabbat. That's all. This will apply to whether it was Yom Tish'ah B'Av, days that you're not allowed to wash your certain, as long as it's localized, you're not washing your whole body. You're only doing certain prepare your for Shiva Nekiyim. That would be, I think there's some bottles of spray that have water in them. You should not take a wet cloth, take a cloth and wet it, because that may come to up. So you have to be careful, because it's Shabbat, you wouldn't possibly what you would regularly do. Alright, let's begin with the preparations. So this was the Hefsek Tahara that prepares with the Shiva Nekiyim. Now comes the more difficult part, and a very important part. It's called the Hasifa. Hasifa is the preparation before she goes to the. She does not do this preparation, even if she went to the mikveh may not be good. She may have to go back again. So it's very important that she knows exactly what she needs. Now, because this is a mixed crowd, I'm not going to get too much detail. Some of the things I'm going to hopefully let you learn, a woman teacher, that will get into more detail how certain things are performed. But I'm going to go over it superficially, and I think most of you who already know will understand what I'm talking about. Hatifa is significant because if there's any hatitza, the mikveh waters will not do their job. Hatitza means a blockage. The waters have to get everywhere. Even though you close your mouth and you close your eyes, theoretically, if you left them open, they can enter. But they don't have to enter. The waters don't have the mouth. They don't have to enter the eyes. You close your eyes. But they must be able to enter there without interfering in their way. So if you have something interfering in your mouth, some blockage, like meat between your teeth, that would be a problem. Tevilah would not. Just give you a quick example of a blockage that is not on the surface of the body. It's inside, and you don't have to open your mouth. Nevertheless, the waters have to be able to penetrate everywhere. And if they cannot penetrate everywhere, there may be a problem. Tevilah may not be a good tevilah, and the woman is still tevilah. So hatifa is the process of untangling or removing all the blockages, all the things that interfere with the water getting in. So part of the hatifa involves washing yourself very well, and washing yourself with hot water is the best way to untangle hair. Hot water is the best way to untangle hair, and hair is one of the areas that needs thoroughly. If possible, with a shampoo that has a softness. There are certain shampoos that just do the opposite. They harden. You want to if you're going to be using a shampoo, you should use a shampoo. It should be a shampoo that has a softness, that should soften the hair, because that is an important area, the area of the hair. It needs to be done thoroughly. To be untangled, it needs combed well, scrubbed well from any dirt. That is the basic to be done. If it's not done properly, it's going to be a problem. So that is one area of the hatifa. The other area of the chafifa is washing the entire body. And I'm saying that when I say body, I mean the whole body. Underneath the armpits, the ears, the nose, the mouth, everything has to be cleansed thoroughly. Now, because so much cleaning is happening, the best way to accomplish it is in a hot bath, in a bathtub. The reason why a bathtub is the best way to accomplish it is not only do you have a lot of water around you, you're able to take your time. And that's a very important condition in the chafifa. That it's not done hurriedly, that it's done slowly. The recommended amount of time that a woman should spend for chafifa, whether part of it is done at home and the rest is done in the mikveh, which I'll discuss, so should be between 45 minutes. And the reason why the rabbis tell us that this is the amount of time she should spend is because she should not hurry through it. A woman may be in a hurry to get this over with because she just come home from work, she works late, right? The mikveh is not open till midnight, so there might be a possibility that she may rush this whole thing. You're not allowed to rush this thing because if you do, you may miss something. If you miss something, it may not be good. So therefore the rabbis say, give yourself at least 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, of course, if something happened and you only had 30 minutes, but you know you did everything, it's okay. But that's not the chatchilah. The chatchilah, you want to give yourself enough time to do everything. And it takes time. You want to do it properly. Another thing the rabbis tell us, that because you want to do it slowly and thoroughly, you want to start at home while it's still day. Close to the evening, close to the Shekiah, because if you're at home, especially if you don't have anybody to bother you, you will not rush through it. Still day, it's not night yet, right? So you will have more time. So the Lechatchila, that is what more food today is. They begin to do some of the process of chafifa at home. In their own bathtub, they prepare them. Because a second condition of the chafifa is that it should be as close as possible, so nothing should happen. The custom is to do something at the mikveh. For example, take a shower, a quick shower. The woman has already taken her bath, already untangled her hair, she's already cleansed herself very well. She comes to the mikveh, she can take a quick shower, check herself again, and that's very important that she check herself again. And then she can go into the mikveh. What a lot of women do today, because we have beautiful modern mikvahot today, they do the whole thing in the mikveh. Has a good bathtub, it has all sorts of lotion, all sorts of goodies, and they actually look forward to it. So they can do all of this in the mikveh as long as they don't rush it. If they know they're not going to rush it and they're going to do it properly, they can do the whole thing with it. But Lechatchila, it's best to begin at home, to do some of it at home, come to the mikveh, and like this, if there's other women there, they don't have to wait because there's only so many rooms. In a large mikveh, there's not that many mikvahot, there might be a long line. So it's a good idea that one start at home, to do as much as you can, and finish off with it. So we said that a chafifa involves bathing oneself, cleaning oneself thoroughly, it involves the hair thoroughly, untangling, combing it, and it also involves the nails. The nails have to be cut. There's no way to avoid that. You need to cut the nails. If the nails are long, they cut, be cleansed underneath it for any dirt to be there. All of this is a hatitza. Any dirt there is a hatitza. It's a blockage, and that has to be done. It has to be cleaned, and the nails have to be cut. What about nail polish? The correct thing is to remove all nail polish. Now, if the nail polish you just had it done that day, they're perfect. They're not chipping away. Everything is fresh and crisp, then you don't have to remove them. But if it's already old, it's chipping away, it has to. Otherwise, what happens if the woman is preparing herself to go to the mikveh on Shabbat? She forgot to cut her on Shabbat. She did everything else. So if you have a non-Jew, ask her to cut it. For this, you can do it, but it's fine. If, of course, we're still talking about it's possible that it's still, after she lit candles, but it's still daylight. Then it's, of course, it's less of a problem. If, of course, there's no goy, as long as the nails were very, very well, and there's no dirt underneath them, then it's okay. But that's only the diavad. Make sure that this is on her list to do, to cut her. Alright. Teeth, I think, I just mentioned briefly, is another example of that thing that has to thoroughly because of meat, especially candy and taffy and certain things that get stuck in it. And as a result of these certain things getting stuck, many women have the custom, it's not a real custom, it's good of not eating on the day she knows she's going to go to the, unless it's Shabbat. She's going to go Motzei Shabbat. She's allowed to, but she should clean herself very well. If you check it, there's nothing left inside them. Many of the men over here are, who are listening, perhaps strange. That's because they don't have to do this. Hopefully, the wife to be aware of all of this is what she needs to go through to properly prepare herself for the makeup. Whether it's mascara. How do you know mascara? What's the difference? Understand that? And what's the one with the eyes called? Right. All the stuff that goes beneath the eye, above the eye. That is the more difficult one to remove. And that has to, because anything that absorbs itself in the skin, like what do you call it, you put on the, well, if it absorbs itself in the skin, it may not be a problem, but if it's something thicker, like mascara, that has to, so that is one of the things that a woman does. So on that day, she may not want to put it on. She's going to have to, if she wants to put it on because it's good, I think that's the thing to do. But it may just give her more work to do. So you should consider that on the days that she goes to. Okay, I'm just going to go quickly through a few examples of hatzitzot. Typical examples of hatzitzot are pins in the hair. There might be pins she left in it, rubber bands. All of these things have to. Another example would be, I guess anything that is like earrings, any jewelry. The only reason I was hesitating to say earrings is some may be permanent or very difficult. So if it's something that you never remove it, to worry. As long as the water can get in. If you have, let's say, a ring that is very difficult, it's almost never very, very tight. Then when the woman goes into the mikveh, that she should put her hand inside and move it around so the water should get everywhere. Because what's the idea of hatzitzah? The idea of hatzitzah is that it interferes. It blocks the water from getting everywhere. So if somehow you can accomplish that, you can get around it. You can have the water get there. It may not be a problem as long as you're not. See, there are two types of hatzitzot. One is that you're makpid. You don't want it to be. Nobody wants dirt. So because you don't want the dirt, it's not part of you. You want it removed. It's chotetz. Another type of hatzitzah is if something is very, very tight against the body. So it's not letting the water, a band-aid, or any tachboshet, any type of, what's the other thing that you put around if you're hurt, a patch, any type of patch, has to. Now, if somebody has a cast, if somebody has something that cannot be removed, he should consult with the rabbi prior to going to, on how it can be done. It still may be possible for the woman to invest, but she needs to consult with the rabbi. It all depends on the circumstances, what it can't be removed, could be removed, what kind of injury it is, what kind of a wound it is, if it's going to get worse, if not, and so forth. Good. That's another one on my list. Contact lenses that are removed every night, that would be another. Braces that are there permanent, well, nothing is permanent. They're meant to stay there, and they can only be moved by an orthodontist. You don't have. There's a question about false teeth. They're called dentures in English. You can just take them out. Crowns is not a problem because that's almost pretty much permanent. Any scabs, you soften scab on a wound, right? It becomes scabby. You don't want to remove the scab because you might have the blood leaking again. So you want to soften as possible before with warm water so you soften. Any dirt removed, including skins, if part of the skin is coming off. You know how sometimes you scrape yourself, it's coming off. All of this has to. So there's a lot of cleaning going on in the hatipah process, not only the hair and the body. Right before the woman goes into the mikveh, she checks herself, or she has a woman, the balanit, make sure there's no leftover makeup on her body. So that is what the hatipah accomplishes in order to avoid hatzitzot. If a woman did not do the tevilah, if she forgot one detail, it may be okay, depends what detail she forgot. If she did not do any of the hatipah at all, tevilah is not, has to go back. So that's why this is important to do. And whoever has never done this before, they will get a better description. I do not want to get into more detail of how to accomplish. As far as going into the mikveh itself, I'm going to skip around a little bit. There are two customs of when to make the blessing. Many Sephardic women, the custom the blessing before the end, while they still have a robe on. The majority of the world makes the beracha in itself. After they've entered the body, most of some portion of the body is already covered by the waters. Then Sherachah, the blessing, and then she immerses herself entirely. They're both correct. You follow whichever custom. No, יש כאלה שעושות עם החלוק. כן, חלוק. בחוץ, ויש כאלה שעושות את זה בתוך המים. שכבר נכנסו לתוך המים. Anyway, you follow whatever your tradition. Now, immersing oneself in the mikveh is very important. It be done properly too. The entire body has to be covered by water. Not one hair can stick out. Not one hair can. That's why it's important. If a woman, there's nobody at the mikveh, that she takes somebody with her friend, that she should make sure that she's done everything properly. Her entire body will hit the water. How many times should yourself? You follow your custom with 1, 3 times, 7. That's not, the number of times is not that important. The important thing is that it's done completely, no hair is sticking out. Now, even in the way of immersing yourself, there's also some instruction. You basically don't want to stand straight up, and you don't want to bend completely, because when you bend in a certain way, you may be making folds in parts of the body. There's folds and the water is not getting there. So it has to be done in such a way that the water is able to. There's a balanit, a woman there who helps out and shows how to do things properly. Another very important halakha, and most people may not be aware of, is that it's very, very important in the Kabbalah, that when a woman comes out of the mikveh, who she meets first. She should, at all possible, avoid that the first person that she meets after exiting the water is a goy. It's not good. It should be her friend or her husband, but they will see all sorts of people. So the woman herself, who's at the mikveh, is okay too. There's another woman at the mikveh, the first woman that she at the water, she's still there, then that's fine. That balanit serves therefore various purposes. It could be that the first person that she's also customarily the one that says kasher. That the words kasher is done properly, mikveh was done correctly. She says kasher. Well, that's something else. In this case, she also checks, make sure everything's done properly. That is the importance. As far as going to the mikveh, you don't go to the mikveh during the day. You go to the mikveh only. It's only after the Sheva if you have a lamp. You cannot go early. So a woman, let's say, who cannot for some reason go that night, right? This is the night of the 8th day. She's kept her Sheva. This is the night is the night of the 8th day. She can't go, alright? Can she go the following day? She can only go during the day? Not on a regular basis. A woman should never, ever go in the day. And I'll tell you why in a moment. Even if it's the 9th or 10th day of it. These many days beyond her Sivanik, she should not go during the day because others, like her daughter, may get the impression it's okay to go during the day in the 7th. She may not know that it's already the 8th and 9th day, and she's already past her 7th of the day. Oh, she's going early. So because of that, we never go during the day. The women never go during the day. Unless something happens. Kala is different. But unless something happens, there can be situations that she just couldn't, or she's not able to, because it's dangerous for her to go at night. There are situations, I'm not saying ever, but on a regular basis she's not allowed to. But if there's a situation that arises, exactly, right, I'm not going to give you all the rules because every situation is different. You should consult with the rabbi. Situations may arise, could not go on the 8th at night. She may be able to go during the morning, during the day, depending on the situation, but not on a regular. The custom today is for the woman not to go to the mikveh when her husband is not in town. Also according to the Kabbalah. Now the reason I'm mentioning is because the Lel Tevilah, the night of the Tevilah, is a very important. On the one hand, that night is due to become clean. She should never push off for no reason whatsoever. And because one should never push it off for just no reason, a woman has to be very careful not to get into a fight with her husband on that day, because as a result of that fight, they may decide that, they're not getting together. That would be a terrible avoid, terrible sin, to push off the mitzvah for Yavrival or not for a fight. So she should do everything in her power to behave herself, and the men too. On that night, it's very important because that is a very special night that everybody is hopefully looking forward to. And that is why the Lel Tevilah Tzva, unless it's Yom Kippur, of course, or he mourning Shiva where they cannot be together, there are certain days, there are certain times that she will not go, even though it's her Lel Tevilah. And I'm going to tell you when those times are. But Lechatchila, in almost all situations, a woman should just not push off the Lel Tevilah. Yes? I'm getting there. Yeah. That would be a situation. How do you okay. So when I say that Lel Tevilah, it includes Lel Tevilah and Shabbat. Friday night. Now Friday night is tricky because the mikveh may be far away, may not be walking. There could be other problems. There could be problems of ni'ut. Everybody's going to see her, right? These are situations where she may be able to push it off, but only if it's extremely difficult. So I said, and I'm going to repeat it again. You don't push it off for no reason, unless there's a very important reason. If it's going to be very difficult for her, there's no way for her to get back home. It's now within walking distance. That may be a problem. Right? It doesn't mean she can go during the day. She can't go early. She may have to push it off when she has no. If it's within walking distance, even though it's far, and the husband be with her, for example, let's say there's a school next door, not too far, then they can make up that they walk home together. So therefore, if at all possible, it should be done closer to Qiyam, right after sunset, as long as it's already nighttime, and not too late. Because then it becomes a problem, getting home late, eat dinner. There's a lot of complications going to happen from a mikveh on Friday night. But I'm just letting you know, it's okay to go to the mikveh on Shabbat, Friday night, perfectly fine. As long as the preparations were done beforehand, right? You can't do a lot of these things on Shabbat. You can't bathe yourself, the entire body on Shabbat. But for the mikveh, it's okay to immerse yourself on Shabbat. That's when the time is. So all the preparations were done Friday, as close as possible to this. And then somehow she can arrange, if she can arrange to go, she should go, and not push it off. Because besides being the Lel Tevilah, Friday night has a special qualities as well. It's a double mitzvah on Friday night. Now, if she was supposed to go Thursday night, she should not push it off to Friday. Thursday night was the time. Friday night, even though it's a beautiful night and it's a good night, and it may be more comfortable for you, more convenient, you don't push it off Friday night, unless Friday night is the time. If something happened and you couldn't Wednesday or Thursday, and you push it off to Friday, it's okay, but not lechatchila. If it happens Friday, fine, but to push it off from another day to Friday is not advised. Now let's say the woman is sick, she's not feeling well, or the husband is home. We're talking about not just the headache. Sick in bed. That would be another possibility of pushing it off. Now, the reason why she may not want to push it off, regardless of the fact that one of them is sick, because even though they may not be together, once the woman goes to the mikveh, they can touch, help each other. So there's an advantage of going, even if it's difficult, even if they're not together. If the husband and wife have already fulfilled the mitzvah of pruruvu, they've already had a boy and a girl, and both of them don't mind, if it doesn't happen that night, they don't mind pushing it off a day. They've already fulfilled the mitzvah. As long as they both agree, it's permissible. But I would not just tell you flatly it's okay. It needs to be done in consultation with the rabbi. Because, you don't just push off the Leila Tevilah. It has to be for a good reason. It has to be valid. But pushing it off because a woman just gave birth, for example, one of them is sick, there's some other big difficulty, some emergency in the family, it's okay. But you should not just take it into your, you should not just make a decision that it's just more convenient for me to go another day and therefore I'm just going to push it off. You don't do that. It has to be a good reason. So when the husband is not in town and the woman does not expect him to, if he may come home unexpectedly, we should go to the mikveh. But if she knows for sure he's not coming back for a week, she's allowed to push it off, and it's better that she should. According to the Kabbalah, it's better that if the husband is not in town, she should not go to the mikveh. She may, if she wants to. She doesn't have to. And the Kabbalah says it's better not to. I think that's the custom of the husband. Yeah, either of the two, whether the woman or the husband be together. But there's other things they can do. They can't be clean, she can touch it, to be together, but she's not allowed to take a shower. So it would be a little bit difficult during that time. Another very important point to keep in mind, and I mentioned in the past, it needs to be a lot of sneut. A woman should not tell anybody in the world, except for her, I don't care if it's her mother, if at all possible. It's not modest. Anybody should know this, especially the children. And you have to use your imagination in what to tell them. One of the things I suggest tell your kids that you have a meeting. It's not a lie. You do have a meeting with the mikveh lady. If you're going shopping, even if you're going shopping after it's okay for you to say, I'm going shopping. As long as you go shopping afterwards. You don't have to come back home. You have to come up with the true explanation, of course, not lie, but you don't want to let them know where the mother is going. It's not tzanua. Definitely not the neighbor or somebody, some others. The same applies to the woman. Comes home from the mikveh, she should not tell her husband, you know who I saw at the mikveh? That's also not, that's between them. But they should not tell their husband, you know who I saw? You know who was there? That's not the conversation that a husband wants to husband. It's not tzanua. Yes. All right. If she's going to be going to the mikveh on Motzei Shabbat, because it's Shabbat, she would not be able to do it. So Motzei Shabbat, if that's the Leila Tevilah, I believe that the best way to handle it is that she should do everything at the mikveh. You're better off doing everything at the mikveh. Actually, what a lot of women do, Motzei Shabbat, they prepare themselves Friday, which is a little earlier than usual. Motzei Shabbat, check themselves in, and when they go to the mikveh, take a shower again and so forth. If that's what they do, they need to be careful from Friday and Motzei Shabbat that they did not handle things that would get dirty, like dough, that would stick to the nails. They would have to brush their teeth Shabbat. So if they've done most of the chafifah Friday instead of Motzei Shabbat, they just have to be careful to check to make sure that there's no chatzitza on their body. Therefore, the hair, for example, would be one of the areas that would have to be combed again and scrubbed. All right, just a couple more halachot. It's important when a woman comes home from mikveh to tell her husband the fact that the husband has to find out for certain. He has to be certain that he has gone to the feast tehorah. So she has to tell him, I've gone. Or he has to understand from something that she does. Comes over to him, touches him, or she does something to give him the message, she's been there. Otherwise, he can't assume him until he's heard it or he knows it. Another important halakha that many people are unaware of is that a woman has to be extremely careful not to lie. Now, in general, lying is no good, but it could happen that a woman might tell her husband if she's very upset at him, I'm in Idah now. I just became unclean. This could happen. She doesn't want him to be around anymore, right? She has to be very careful with that, because if she said it and later she said, well, I didn't really mean it, I was just joking. Well, guess what? You're going to have to wait. Unless she can come up with a very, very good excuse. I'm really, really sorry. I really thought I was because I saw a stain. Sure. You have to be very careful. This is a very serious matter. You can't joke in this area. This is very serious. A woman is supposed to be reliable. She's relied upon that she checked herself, that she's no more blood. She's relied upon that we are relying on her on a lot of things. We're relying on her that she's done the chafifah. There's a lot of ne'emanut here going on. We're trusting her. So if ever, chas v'shalom, she loses her credibility, she can lose in that country. The husband can no longer trust her. It could be a problem. So I'm letting you know right now, don't joke around in this area. Don't use that as a weapon. The Arabs have used oil as a weapon. The woman should not use for love, right? It's threatening. Because first of all, it destroys the shalom bayit. It causes a lot of problems at home. and it could make her tme'ah unnecessarily for having said so or been threatened, and then later she... I think we've covered everything. Next week, B'ezrat Hashem, is the last week of Taharat HaMishpacha. We'll be covering some very important halachot that are indirectly related, to include the halachot of Yehud. In other words, when can a man be with a woman other than his wife and alone? How, under what circumstances, which women, at what time, and what type of halachot Yehud. We'll talk about the halachot which involve the halachot of how a man is supposed to be with his wife and together, how that is done, how it should be done properly, according to his perspective. And even in that area, I'm not going to cover it too much in detail because it's not possible in public to discuss that. But in private, if anybody has a question, I can get more in depth. But we'll cover a little bit of that for the Chot Tzniut. There's various tefillot and various segulot you can do to have children, what they should be aware of, what prayers, all of that we'll cover. There are also certain days of the year, other than Kippurim, that are not recommended that a husband are together. Then don't forget, we'll cover that too. And various other segulot, tefillot, that are important, that one should have good kids, because that time is a very husband and wife are together. If she has already ovulated, a child may be born. A tremendous responsibility lies with the parents determining Shema, which soul is going to enter that body. As you know, the rabbis tell us there are three partners: husband and wife, father and mother, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They all come from the Shema, and the husband and wife in triple body. So they have a tremendous role to play if the Shema comes down. So we'll discuss a little bit of all of that. Okay, anybody have any questions about Hatzitzot, Chafifa? I think I've covered everything. Yes. The Tikkun, as well. Somebody, Chaz v'Shalom, did not know Nida. She was with her husband. What she compared, there are various types. So she was, depending if she did it intentionally, he or the accident, or if it's without their knowledge. They're different. So remind me, we'll talk about that too next week. But next week, B'ezrat Hashem, hopefully we'll start on time. Right after that, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll be starting Shabbat, which will last, I think, about 14. Even if Mashiach comes, you'll still have to. I think that's about. Okay, the Chafifa is a very important part of the process, as I said earlier. You cannot skip over it. The woman has to give herself enough time to perform it properly. In a hurry, somehow, if she can get home, she may do everything. Even at the mikveh, she should take her to B'ezrat Hashem. If the Gula is done properly, prepares herself properly, that in itself, the Gula, should have good children, God-fearing children.